Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. So the Chinese ultimatum on economics has now come in, and it says stop playing with fire on the debt ceiling. But there seems also to be the interference of the Chinese saying we get to determine what the value of your currency is going to be. And if you don't want that kind of a future, time to gear up, time for economic recovery program, New Deal style, and no more free market lunacy. Because if you do that, you better factor in the cost of learning Chinese, as we've often said. You're going to have to take orders, so you're going to have to learn it. Now, we also have the austerity ghouls all over the place. Robert J. Samuelson, boy, what a no-talent, what a nepotist. If you want to know why Robert J. Samuelson gets to write columns in the Washington Post here on Monday, June 6th, for example, because his father was the famous Paul Samuelson. That's the only reason. This is an example of the dysfunctional effects of nepotism in terms of the quality, the talent of people who get desirable jobs. So the title of his editorial piece, Why We Must End Medicare as We Know It. We must end Medicare as we know it. And he wants genocidal austerity. Isn't that interesting? Says the nepotist Robert J. Samuelson, who has never gotten anywhere except for the fact that he trades on his father's name. Some people probably think he is Paul Samuelson, the Nobel Prize-winning economist. USA Today on Tuesday, United States owes $62 trillion. Unfunded obligations amount to $534,000 per household, and they show you all the financial liabilities. What an exercise in demagogy. It's like saying you may owe a certain amount of money, let's say over your entire life, right? Say over the next 50 years, you're going to owe X amount of dollars, and I'm going to scare you now so that you don't go out and buy a car or a house or something that you need. There's absolute lunacy. This is simply a cheap demagogic trick, and at least some reasonable reaction to this. Michael Lind, policy director of the New America Foundation Economic Growth Program. Now, the interesting thing about him is he claims to be a Hamiltonian. I don't know if he quite makes it, but he claims to be a Hamiltonian. So Lind points out there is no near-term crisis for federal retirement programs, and that future economic growth, and maybe a little inflation, I would add, makes these future obligations quite bearable, as long as you do the right thing. So here's what Lynn says. Quote, the false claim that Social Security and Medicare are about to bankrupt the United States has been repeated for decades by conservatives and libertarians and reactionaries and proto-fascists, I would add, who pretend that their ideological opposition to these successful and cost-effective programs is based on worries about the deficit. Good. They simply use every depression to get what they want. Example, this litany of these characters never changes. Here's an example. Here is a speech that was given at the National Association of Manufacturers, September 17th, 1942. And this became policy for the National Association of Manufacturers. The text goes like this. The question for the United States in World War II is the following. Are there common denominators for winning the war and for winning the peace? If there are, then we should deal with both in 1943. What are they? We will win the war by reducing taxes on corporations. In the midst of World War II, the National Association of Manufacturers says, reduce taxes on corporations, reduce taxes on high-income brackets, increase taxes on lower incomes, remove unions from any power to tell industry how to produce or how to deal with their employees or anything else, and by destroying any and all government agencies that stand in the way of free enterprise. It never changes, the eternal litany of greed and oligarchy and backwardness and failure because you try to do that, you fail. So that's what it was in 1943, and that's what it is today. And they simply want to use the crisis. Now, international economics, the Greek crisis. Will Greece default? Well, Greece should immediately go for a debt moratorium. This is a different kettle of fish. Mexico did it. Brazil did it. Argentina did it. And Greece can and should do it. Now, the German finance minister Schäuble this morning in the Bundestag, he says that the refinancing and adjustment, in other words, the writing down part of the Greek debt is now unavoidable. Die Umschuldung, the writing down of debt. It means cutting the amount that you owe. The writing down of Greek debt is unavoidable, and the private sector must take a hit. Yeah. Well, I would go further. I mean, that's a step in the right direction. But what you need is a unilateral debt moratorium by Greece. Right now, stop all payments on international financial debt, interest and principal. Debt moratorium, a la Brazil, Mexico, Argentina, and a list of 25 to 30 other countries, ranging from the big ones like Brazil, Argentina, Mexico, down to the little ones like Costa Rica. Anybody can do it. You don't have to be big. You don't have to be powerful. And the problem, of course, is Papandreou. We've got strikes going on in Greece all the time. Dear Greeks, how come you haven't gotten rid of Papandreou? Oust him. Get him out of there. The Second International, the Socialist International, the Yellow International, as they were long known, the Strike-Breaking International. Dare I say it, sometimes social fascists. Certainly. This is the exterminating angel of austerity. How is it that Papandreou is still in power? At least the Portuguese have been able to clear the scene by getting rid of Socrates. So now they're dealing with a reactionary government. That makes it easier to fight, strangely enough. But when you get the monetarists, right, the international bankers running your country through a government like Papandreou, a clear Anglo-American agent. Papandreou family have been British agents for how many generations? 3, 4, 5? I don't know. It goes way back. Probably goes back to the Ottoman Empire. But the Papandreous have been there doing the work of the London Bank. So you've got to get rid of them, and then you've got to have a program, and that means the stuff that we've been talking about. A debt moratorium to start with, shut down any and all zombie banks, wipe out derivatives, re-regulate your markets, tax speculative turnover with a Tobin tax, and seize that central bank, 0% credit for production. Now, that means you're going to try to do it on the European level, and what you've got to do is see what could Greece do to force a decision for the nationalization, the Europeanization of the European Central Bank, and 0% euro credit for production. Europe would need, based on my estimate, about 40 million new productive jobs. 40 million new productive jobs minimum at union pay scales. That's a recovery. That's your goal. Why campaign for anything less than what is needed? And at least by doing that, you're going to pull the discussion in the correct direction. So, Austin Goolsbee of Skull and Bones is leaving the Obama regime, and the Bilderbergers are meeting in St. Moritz. So we'll follow all of those. The other thing you need to know, Michael E. Leiter has quit as the head of the National Counterterrorism Center. Good, because he was a failure. This is supposed to be the National Counterterrorism Center, supposedly the point where all the information from the entire U.S. government is connected, where the dots are connected. Well, on December 25th, 2009, Leiter failed to stop the Mutalab case. He failed to get his visa taken away. He should have been out then in Christmas 2009. We'll be back in a minute.